Hi, everybody, and welcome to TNMCoaching Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected podcast. We're so grateful and happy to see you with us once again. We're so grateful and happy for this wonderful followership that we have recently. For the new people who joined this podcast, welcome. For the older people who are following us for years right now, welcome, welcome. As you know, this is the space when you elevate your mind, elevate your heart, elevate your soul to the next level and beyond. This is the space when you get inspired to learn something new week after week, to be inspired by people who are giving the content, people who are in personal development industry, people who are leading, people who are artists, people who have something interesting and lovely to say. And today's guest, she's very special. She's wonderful. I met her a few years back, and we have a close encounter when we were working in TEDx 2 years ago, when she was a coach and I was the coach. She was in production team and I was in production team. And I began realizing how beautiful her energy was, how significant her presence was, and how we were able to synergize together, her and I, in supporting and coaching people behind the scenes to be able to tell their story in the best possible way. And some of you might know that TED or TEDx format is quite challenging for people. You have to follow the script. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to rehearse. You have to show up your presence. You have to express your voice. When my strength was to hold people accountable to themselves, to give them energetic support, to get them to really connect to themselves, to get them to be more comfortable in your own skin, Alex Gray, who is actress, she is voice artist, and she is creative that helps people and supports people to tell the better story through voice and being able to understand how to express themselves, was the one who was actually giving a very specific technical and creative directorship for the people who were presenting, and the event was success. And I really loved since then what Alex Grace does and how she supports people to arrive to the point that they can use their voice to really tell the better story, to have better impact, to be able to express themselves. So there's so much we can talk about it, but this is the topic of today's conversation. So Alex, I'm so grateful and happy that you're with me today, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I love listening to everything you were saying.
Yeah.
But I don't need to say anything.
Exactly. So I usually ask a really personal question to begin with. Sometimes, people feel, oh, you surprised me. You didn't tell me that you're going to be asking me that. But my question to you, how did you get into acting, and how did you get into supporting them people later on to be able to express their voice? What was your journey into it?
So I mean, I'll give you the short-ish version. Ever since I was very, very little, I was at ballet and theater school, and this was always my world. It was the world that I was able to really feel myself and feel present, and it was a beautiful gift to be able to experience life in this way through using my body, using my voice, being part of a larger performance. Which really, for me, always just represents life itself. When I was born, like my mother and father always say to me, like I came out speaking fluently. I've always been a big talker. And so with my primal scream at birth, the words flowed very quickly. And I think probably because of that confidence in vocalizing myself, I say that with a cheeky smile, because I think my parents almost didn't really know what to do with me. So they were like, okay, off to the circus, off to the theater. And so, through formal training at drama school, you're very privileged to be able to experience and study certain vocal techniques and physical techniques. So you understand how to magnetize a room, how to activate the voice so that you can give greater impact to the story that you're telling. And then, as life goes on and things unfold in terms of a career path, I was invited to hold space for a large number of speakers who were sharing their personal stories And this really was such a gift. And this is the moment that we met, because I realized that it doesn't really always come easy to people. The voice is so affected by karmic influences, psychological impact, how we're feeling emotionally. And so unless you really have a deeper understanding of that and what is going on in your body energetically, like it could really hinder a person from standing up there and sharing that story. And those stories that people stand up there and share, even if it's about, maybe it's not personal, but maybe it's about their work or their study or an experience that has happened to them that is life-changing. All of these, this platform that is given for people to share this space is so important because it changes lives. It changes the trajectory of a person who's sitting there listening. And I think then I felt so, I guess I really felt like I had a place and I was able to add value, being kind of behind the scenes and holding space for people to take their talk on stage or their story, or even if they're not sharing it on the platform of a TEDx, for example, they could be sharing it in the workplace or even in their social situation. Maybe they want to share a speech with their guests at an event. Realizing the value that I can have in helping them to activate their voice, feel confident, and be able to go out there, I think was a real, like a nice little game changer for me in the work I was doing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm always thinking, because I never had issue in expressing myself, even though now I'm coughing, in expressing myself and speaking in the public, I always feel there is a lot of people in business world, in startups, in the crypto universe, now with the AI founders, also people who are teachers, performers, who are actually struggling in expressing and sharing their story. And there's always this nervousness and tension. Sometimes I feel it. I come onto the stage and I'm like, oh my God, can I really say this?
Yeah.
And that's something that is really common to all of us, right? So what is the reason that we feel that, from your perspective, that we're so uncomfortable, so to say, in expressing ourselves, in sharing our story?
Well, I think there's many things I want to say about this because it's really important, and it's the starting point of realizing why we say something and why we don't say something. So we have very little control over our lives to some degree, but what goes in our mouth and what comes out of our mouth, we have full control over. And that's actually quite a powerful realization to have. And I think that maybe energetically we realize that in the subconscious. And so we understand that words are spells. Once we say it, we can't take it back. If we never say it, will we ever have the chance to say it again? It comes with, they say, like, with great power is great responsibility. And so I think that that's why we have this tool that we're given, and it feels so powerful that actually we don't really know how to use it. Yes, some of us are born knowing that, or I wouldn't even say knowing, but feeling that we can use our voice as an instrument and use it as change, use it as a way to tell a story. And then there are also many of us that also feel like, well, what right do I have to speak? Who am I? I'm not a politician. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an artist or a musician. So therefore, what right do I have? And what I like to work with in my sessions is, if you can speak, then you absolutely must. And the feelings that you're feeling around not feeling good enough, the common one is, I don't like the sound of my own voice. When I speak, I feel that it goes, I then get restricted, I get dry mouth, like all of these physical sensations and psychological imposters happen to everybody. You just said it happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to most people I know that put themselves out there on a stage. It happens to them too. So really through the sessions, we want to understand why it happens and how can we embrace it and transmute it into something that can then be present in what we're trying to say. So once you eliminate the fear, then I'm going to start talking to Zoran. I'm going to feel nervous now. I'm going to start twitching, get dry mouth. I've got all the fear coming up in me, but we just have to kind of move with it and understand that it is only an energetic. And how can we drive that into the body so that we're rooted and then can actually enjoy the experience of speaking and having a conversation? Because it's actually fun.
Exactly. I love that. Enjoying the experience. Exactly. And really enjoying it because it's actually fun when you go through that process. So when you are coaching, leading, and mentoring other people, what is that fear about? That fear that gets you dry mouth, the dry expression. Is it that I'm not going to know what I'm going to say next? Is it that I'm insecure? What is it? I know it's individual to each and every of us, but if you were to see the collective consciousness of humanity, that we all share this certain pattern together, what is it in your opinion that prevents us or stifles us?
I think there's so much, it's interesting because a lot of us hold trauma, like most of us are traumatized in some way by speaking up and saying the wrong thing. So normally in childhood, you've said something and either your peers, your parents, your teachers have made you feel stupid about what you have said, or you have said something that is incorrect and you've been reprimanded for it in some way. And so with that is a trauma. So that can come up quite a lot. I have fear of public speaking because a client could say, when I was 5, I had to stand on the chair, repeat my times table, and I did it wrong. So all of this obviously is, from what I would say is obvious. We hold traumas around speaking and having said something in the past. But on another level, I do think it is, there is a fear that we hold about possessing and embodying and owning our power. And when everybody is looking at you and you feel that energetic of, okay, you're in front of, say, 100 people and everyone is looking at you and wondering what you're going to say next. So all of a sudden, that focus feels like such a responsibility that, of course, like it creates a psychological, emotional effect in the brain that then will activate dry mouth, nervousness, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the biggest one, the inner critic that comes into the room because we feel that we don't have the right to be powerful. We don't have the right to say something. And that happens to everybody. And so there's a very simple shift that you can make, which is in that moment that everybody is looking at you, you realize that actually you can place your attention on them. And when you place your focus on the other person and make them, this group of people or this one person, the most important person in the room, and you realize then that it's not about you, this is about them, you kind of, I don't know, this beautiful shift happens because you realize that you only have to say one thing to change a person's life. You know, how many times have you read a book and it's one line in a book that's changed the course of your life?
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, actually, there's no pressure. You don't need to say, 3,000.
Many profound things.
Yeah.
Many profound things.
You just need to share the truth, place your focus on the other person, and realize that one person may receive a few words, and that may resonate with them, and then they make a change in their life. And the other person over there takes the last few things you said, and that's the most powerful for them. As always, we take what we need and the rest we forget. So knowing that you're there to do a job and empower another person, I think can take the pressure off. Everybody's looking at me. It's actually, not everybody's looking at you. Everybody is worrying about themselves, looking at you. So
that's true.
Yeah. So some of those games you can be really creative with actually in your everyday life. And what I try to do is to give people practices and tools that they can use straight away, even in an encounter in the supermarket. You can go and tell a story to someone in the supermarket that you've never met before, and in 1 minute, you've practiced using your voice, remaining present, having confidence, being sincere and an observer of someone else's experience, and responding to them with what they may need in that moment.
Before we get into the techniques and tools, I just want to bookmark and highlight this for our audience. I love what you shared, that is in truth, it's about power, isn't it? Us being able to really, really, really express our power, own our power. And we all are, on a certain level, afraid of our power. We're not afraid of something else. We know deeply within us how powerful we are. And we know this instrument, the voice that we have, it's extremely powerful as well. As you said at the beginning of the podcast, when we say something, we're in control. We control what we say. That's point of control, which we can choose. So power is important. And then also that we all have this little of the trauma, micro trauma, macro trauma, depends on the individual, but we all have, we share this in common. I remember when I was in school in front of the class, and I was examined and I made a mistake, and teacher told me that was mistake, and everybody laughed, and how I shrinked, that's micro trauma that sometimes I need to overcome when I'm in front of the audience, because I might think everybody's going to laugh when I start talking because I'm going to get it wrong. So what I love what you're sharing is that this is normal for all of us. And I think when we normalize it in a way that we all, no matter what we do, acting, leading, developing, coaching, growing, whatever industry, we share this in common, and we all have this tension and nervousness, but we can overcome it. And when we do, then our power can shine. We can really get that. And I love what you said about this one thing that out of the speech that you give will resonate and stay with somebody and change their life. And I'm witness to that. Sometimes I coach people, and then years later, they told me, there is one tiny thing that you told me, out of all of the things that I was trying to do and say and share and empower, that really, really bookmark and resonate. So that also liberates, isn't it? The pressure of performance.
Completely. And, to understand that these feelings and sensations that are coming up in the body, you don't even really need to understand why in that moment. You just need to have the technical and practical tool to kind of harness that feeling of nervousness and anxiety and alchemize it into something that can help you elevate what you're trying to do or say. 9 times out of 10, it's our inner critic that is saying, it's the little voice that exists within us all that decides to show up. It's the unwanted guest at a party that decides to come in and just wreck everything. And when you get really comfortable with being rude to this very familiar guest in your house, in your head, you, as soon as you hear, feel, see it come into your experience, especially when you're about to give a performance or a talk, you really have full control. You can recognize, this is my inner critic. He's activating the imposter syndrome, and I'm going to tell him or her or whatever you want to assign to this energy. And you can really ask it to leave. And it was one of the first things that I learned, because nothing will ruin your experience more than an inner critic. It will be the person that says, you are not good enough. Who do you think you are? Everybody thinks you're stupid. This is embarrassing. And when that comes in for me, I start twitching in my face. I start to loop in my head in a state of panic. I start to feel shame and embarrassment. I start to project disaster onto the whole experience. And so I have to take myself away for 5 minutes before whatever I'm about to perform or whatever I'm about to say. And I have to have a very strong word. It's almost like going into the ring, having a fight and winning. And sometimes swear words are used as well. And I have to just ask this energy to leave right away because it's not helpful to anyone.
So it will be like you recognize it and you would say whatever, now it's time for you to leave. I recognize you. I see you. This is my inner critic.
Yeah.
Leave right now, because actually what I really want to do is not criticize myself, but be empowered to be able to share my story. So this is one of the techniques, right?
Exactly. Like if you had spent your life planning the event of Zoran, and you'd been working towards this moment your whole entire life. You knew every single detail, all the planning, the guests, you were in charge of everything. This is the perfect moment that is created in celebration of you. And some giant oaf came in that was unwanted, uninvited, and just destroyed the whole event. How would you speak to that person? What would you say?
I would use many, many words.
So it's about recognizing it and saying, how dare you rob this moment from me? This is mine. I've prepared for it. I'm going to own it, take the space, and you can leave.
Beautiful. So that's the thing that we all need to bookmark. I remember a very close friend of mine in his wedding, and I was his best man, and I was standing, and he was supposed to, give his oath and give the speech. And in exactly that moment, this was happening.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Preparing for everything. It was like, oh my God. And he was like telling me, as this was going on, I was like, breathe, let go, like move this voice out of your head. You're here. You know what I mean? So if he just had this technique and if he knew how to self-regulate himself and open his power, then everything will be easy. So it's not only applicable in big presentation speeches, weddings, funerals, when you have to stand up in front of the group of people and you have to share your story. Something happens and you say, this voice comes in and we have to learn how to let go of it. So that's one of the techniques. What else? When you coach, when you teach, when you help people, what is another practical tip or technique that you would say you would love to share?
So I feel it depends like what the client specifically, like how they want to work with their voice, like what they're applying their voice to. But for example, let's go into the realm of public speaking and people that are sharing life stories to inspire and expand the lives of others. It's deeply personal what you are saying. Okay, what this person is saying. It is so personal and ingrained in their being. So how can we really hold space for that on a vocal level? If you're sharing a very powerful story, then you need to make sure there is space in your body to hold that. So along with like vocal toning and understanding the psychology and really working to eliminate the inner critic in our lives, also allowing there to be space within our vocal tone and our physical being that can house what is going to come up and out of us. So it's not always just the words we say, it's how we say it, and it's the tone that we give to it that can really, it can change everything, because the resonance that is laid over the words is really the true intention of what is being said. So therefore, you can say something.
I love that definition. Sorry to interrupt you. I love the resonance of the words over the words is a true definition of what is truly wanting to be said, because sometimes you feel that resonance no matter what other people say. I just want to bookmark this for our audience because I love this definition. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. No, it's also good to understand, what comes out. And how that sounds. And so with my clients, we play around with, like I'm a storyteller and I love story. And I feel that, if you want to, I actually don't know what genius person said it, but it's a very common saying, which is, if you want to change your life, tell a better story.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love everybody to realize that they have a life-changing story in them. If everybody said, like how they say, everyone has a book in them. We all have a memoir. Everybody has a public talk that within them, that they could go out and share and change the lives of others. So playing around with the stories of our lives through letter writing, actually. I love to work with letter writing in the third person, really connecting to deeper parts of ourselves and the story that lies underneath what someone is saying. Is a really big practice of mine, because also it's something that a client can then go away and work with on a daily basis. And so by getting those stories up and out of us and onto the page, and then reading them back to ourselves or to me in a performance setting, as if you were performing it, allows us to create that space in the body, because then you're not holding on to the tensions of the things that you never said. I don't know if I imagine that lots of people are familiar with the practices of the artist's way, where every morning you write the morning pages just to literally cleanse and debunk the brain and the mind chatter. So it's a similar practice with writing letters to yourself and writing out your story. You're really like cleansing out the space within you to hold space for more. It creates a refinement for what you're saying. And then you really can understand what happens to your voice. So the voice exists for me, like not only on the outside of our body as it comes out the mouth and we share it, but also, on an energetic scale, it goes from the root to the tip, or whatever way around you want to imagine that. And so we really do have access to a full spiral of sound. And if we want to be heartfelt, it goes up into the heart. And if we want to have impact, it can go deeper into the body. So playing around with moving the story and the sound, like to other parts of the body, is a practice that we do. I make it as fun and creative as possible, but it's also incredibly technical. And then when you want to tell whatever it is you're preparing for, you can say, okay, I need this to be softer and more sincere, and I know that I can access that resonance in my voice, or I really want to create like a deep impact and for people to really understand the importance and the seriousness of what I'm saying. So you can bring the voice deeper into the body, and then that way, when you're on stage, you can also respond to the audience at the same time, because you are responding to them. So if they all of a sudden start laughing, you need to know how to anchor them through your voice back into a more impactful, energetic, that can hold space for what you're saying.
Just all of those techniques that you share so far, are inspiring me already. I've learned so much about how to use my voice, even the tonality, how to come from different parts of your body and understand the full spectrum of my communication. It's absolutely beautiful. And do you believe that storyline is important? Because sometimes in expressing one's voice and being able to share with authenticity and integrity with the full power, the story needs to be good. Is that something that you advocate, or is it something that any story can be good from your point of view?
I feel that, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if you have a story that had a great impact on your life, that caused that maybe the story was very very small, like very subtle, but the impact was extremely valuable and dynamic in your life, then sharing the weight and the magnitude of the impact can always help elevate a story that maybe someone feels is boring, or I mean, that we also go through that. Is it even interesting what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But if it's if the person that is saying it is interested, like, and believes in the impact that it has had on their life, then they should absolutely share that. And I think the more we share our simple stories, actually, the greater impact we can have on a daily scale. I mean, I am sitting here sharing a little bit my story with you, and maybe this will impact someone else. You just don't know. But my inner critic could have told me 5 minutes before we started talking, does anyone even care what you're saying? Like, Alex, what are you doing here? But no, someone out there will listen. And
Absolutely.
and it will, understanding the power that you have within your voice, anybody can go out there and share a story. So even a simple joke is a story.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that some of my audience, or our audience on TNM Unplugged as well, are leaders and professionals. So if somebody was to come and say to you, Alex, I am a leader of the organization. I need to inspire people. I need to empower people. I need to stand up in front of a group of people at the conference, or I need to give a speech, or I need to really do that in a powerful way, but I don't know how. And I'm technical. I have a lot of people who come to me. I'm an engineer. I love software. I love computers. Leave me with the computer, and I could tell the story using my keyboard.
Yeah.
But me standing in front of people and me sharing my story, I don't know how. I'm afraid. I don't know where to start, where to go. What would you say? How would you lead them through the process? Let's just kind of talk about simple case study, just for people to understand and see what they need to go through, of somebody who is, they can speak, but they're not powerful storytellers, into being able to work with you to come to the point where they can say, ta-da, I've shared this story, and, everybody were listening to me, and I could see that one person that I was anchoring, was moved, and everybody got inspired. Then I got wonderful feedback after doing that. So what will be the journey for somebody like that?
So this is really interesting, because actually there's so many people out there with incredible knowledge, but haven't yet accessed the confidence or the voice or the storyteller part of themselves in order to really give over this this knowledge in a way that it can be received. So much of performance training is how to tell a story. So I would look at their sort of case in its entirety. There will be passion behind what they're trying to say. So how do they express their passion best? Does it come through physically, for them, vocally? Like, where is that passion holding in the body? And then I would go through the various practical exercises and techniques that help them to continue to connect with this inner storyteller, which I believe is in everybody. Like, before there was anything, and we were just living in small communities, we were all reading stories to one another. We were all the storytellers. So I believe as humans, we do have access to that. It is within all of us. So taking them through, these various practical techniques and exercises on a regular basis, probably we would need like 10 sessions, maybe 5, depending, where you keep training the voice. You train the physicality like you would if you were going to run a marathon. You know that you can run, but you just are not sure that you can run that far. So you engage in daily physical training and practice so that your body can then do that thing that you would like to do. It's the same. It's not that you don't have it. It's that you just need to unleash it and activate it within you, and then practice doing that. So breaking it down into vocal toning, confidence coaching is really important. Being able to activate the space for people to feel confident, and then giving them the tools to be able to hold that space for themselves so that they can create their own stage. So it's all, creative, energetic, and technical practices that then will lead you to a place where you will give over a better speech, story, performance. It can only get better the more you do it. It's very practical. It's training it. It's not something that you either have or you don't have.
Yeah. And I love that. I love your practicality with this, because I believe, as you believe, that everybody has story to say. And then once we train those skills, those muscles, preparation, super important, practice. How do you express yourself? Breath, as well, as you mentioned, where the voice comes from. How do you anchor your story? That everybody literally can become the true storyteller. And I remember, that in the past, we used to sit around the fire when we didn't have internet and we didn't have social media. We were in the storyline, and the big storytellers were so important, and we all were enticed to share our story in the most beautiful way. Even the shy ones, there was always a space for people to express. And I think we need to go back into it, because one of the aspects that makes us human and makes us so beautiful and so invigorating is our stories that we have inside of ourselves through our life experiences that we want to share to empower others as well.
Yeah, I believe that so strongly. Like there's a huge invitation to the world with social media. So so many people, I say everyone, but so many people are feeling this call to share, to express themselves. And we've been given this amazing platform to do it on, but really the skill, if you can move yourself away from the screen, and you can put yourself in front of a human being, having a human experience, and you can share your story in that way as much as possible, or just engage in human behavior, that's where you really develop the true skill of being able to share your truth and share your story. And so using those opportunities to really connect human to human is vital for our existence, because otherwise it's all just a bit of a show and a pantomime. And it's a necessary show and pantomime, but those intimate moments that we used to have way back yonder, hundreds of years ago, we've lost that quality. And that really is the thing that develops the confidence and the skill and the ability to tell the truth.
Confidence, the skill, and the ability to tell the truth. Thank you so much, Alex. Any last word to leave the audience with? It can be anything that you would like us to practice in this direction, or anything that you feel it's important for you to communicate, just to leave the audience with as they're departing from this podcast.
Oh, now that's pressure. Now I have to say something.
I know.
Well, actually, a teacher of mine many, many years ago said something to me that was very simple, and it may not resonate for anyone, but it's something that I tell myself in the moments that I think I can't or I don't want to. And she told me this, and it always inspires me to take responsibility for the power or skill that I possess. And it is, she always said, if you can do it, you must do it. Yeah. So it's very, very simple, but for me, if you can, you must. If you can speak, you absolutely must. If you can run a marathon, you absolutely must. We're so focused on the things that we can't do. So if we can, we must, because it comes with such power, and it shifts a huge energetic in our lives. And then I think we can, all be inspirers and expanders of each other's human experience.
Alex, great. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It was joy and pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for exactly, and for everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. This was great. I'm going to reference Alex Gray Instagram and also her social media. So if you feel inspired, you want to get in touch, of course, you can do that. You can follow her and engage in working with her. She's, as you can see, remarkable. Once again, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank
bye
you.
for now.
Bye. Ciao. See you later.